What's up YouTube, it's Mac1 here, bringing you part 2 of my Shaddoll Qliphort War video. If you haven't seen part 1, I strongly suggest watching that first, otherwise I may not make much sense. I'll drop an annotation probably in one of the corners. In this part we'll be introducing cards released in Secrets of Eternity. These cards further the connections between Shaddoll and Qliphort archetypes, and introduce Spirit Beast Tamers and Infernoids into the fray. The Infernoids are an archetype of fire fiend type monsters that revolve around banishing their own kind to summon themselves, following up with powerful effects. The name is a portmanteau of Inferno or Infernal and Android or Void. They are based on devils from Jewish mythology, and their names are slightly altered versions of these devils. Infernoids appear to be the ground troops and generals working with the Qliphort, employing the latter as huge war machines and fortresses. Carrier can be seen dropping a large number of Infernoid forces to the ground. Like the Qliphort, the Infernoids have power supplies with different colours corresponding to card borders, and the Qliphort they are associated with in Jewish mythology. Scout, Colonel and Assembler contain the normal Synchro and Fusion cores, but have no corresponding Infernoids yet, but those Infernoids will be based on the devils Belphegor, Satan and Lilith respectively. We will probably see these in crossover souls. The Effect Core is held by Helix and powers Adramelech. The Pendulum Core is held by Towers and powers Behemoth. Ritual power is shared by Disc and Astaroth. Xyz powers Shell and Lucifugus. Token powers Alias and Belzebul. Spell for Carrier and Baal. And finally Trap core powers Access and Asmodai. The artwork of Shaddoll Fusion shows Scout releasing the normal power supplies for its Infernoids, which in turn can be seen absorbing El Shaddoll window. Therefore it can be assumed that the canisters subjugate other monsters and potentially use them as a power source. Alternatively, as the Qliphort are the antivirus system of the DT world, they could be capturing them in order to disinfect them. In terms of the war itself, we still do not have a proper series of events or a conclusion. The events of El Shaddoll Fusion, leading to climate change and Clipper launch, is fairly obvious, but from then on some parts are more open to interpretation. It's assumed that climate change causes the release of the Qliphort following sacrifice, resulting in Clipper launch and the offense of Shaddoll Fusion. While this is happening, several different factions fight above the tree, as seen in Ambushed Spirit Beast, at which time we can see tamed Spiritual Beast Batolfin becoming El Shaddoll Wendigo. The Qliphort are then released at various points. I think Carrier is deployed at the same night as the events of Shaddoll Fusion, as we can see her dropping Infernoid forces in its art and in Void launch. But quite a few of the others seem to be present during the day, which means they're either deployed earlier and not present in the fight, or were deployed later by the events of Qliphort, whatever those events may be. It's possible that Qliphort is a later response to the subjugation of Towers by Construct and the formation of El Shaddoll Shekinaga, but again we can't truly tell at this point. We may in fact see Qliphort give birth to the Qliphort many years prior to the war, as the events of Void Flood burn away all of the surrounding forest, which is seen undamaged in the art of Assembler. It's my theory that Assembler lives up to its name and constructs the Qliphort before burying itself underground, having the Naturia sacred tree grow around it, maybe feeding off of the Qliphort energy. There are a few problems with this theory, however. First and foremost is that Assembler is nowhere near large enough to house all of the Qliphort, at least not the likes of Towers and Colonel. This may be rectified by saying that Assembler simply serves as a gateway of sorts, and putting the coloured cores into the domes under the tree summons a Qliphort from some kind of pocket dimension. But I think that I'm thinking about this far too hard. Assembler, being a normal monster, has flavor text. The programming text above Carnage indicates that there's a problem with the running of the Qliphort program, likely the subjugation of Towers. Below Carnage is a mishmash of backwards English and Japanese. Separated and put into the right order, the English text reads, "God is angry on your doing and want to bring fire flood." I'm assuming here that the fire flood refers to the Infernoids. The Japanese is an extract from Genesis 3:22 and reads, "Behold, the man has become like one of us in knowing good and evil. Now lest he reach out his hand and take also of the tree of life, and eat and live forever." This passage refers to the fruit of the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden, and is immediately before the expulsion of Adam and Eve from the garden. Taken together, this could refer to the Shaddoll wishing to obtain the powers from the tree of life, or the truly sacred tree, and the Qliphort and Infernoids are reacting in anger to this sacrilege and enacting divine retribution, wanting to expel the Shaddoll from the Eden of the DT world by purifying everything with fire. After the events of Shaddoll fusion, we see a Drumalech absorbing the canisters in the art of infernal voidbringers, powering up and becoming fully activated. The Infernoids then set about purging the world, and Constellar Knight Diamond rises up to confront Behemoth in the art of blazing void, which is reminiscent of Constellar Ptolemy forming to combat Evil Swarm Ouroboros in Infestation Terminal. After that, we have no real idea what happens. Stay tuned for part 3 of this video after the release of Crossover Souls, the set after Secrets of Eternity, in which we will likely see an end to this conflict. But for now, this has been Uzmaki1, signing out.